Happy Friday. I'm your host, Amber Duke, joined in studio today by Jessica Burbank, in town from North Carolina/Iowa. It's good to have you in D.C.
It's good to be in D.C. I'm actually a really convincing hologram. I've been barred from the studio by Nikki Haley, actually, so
barred permanently. What do we have to start with today, Jessica?
Well, speaking of Nikki Haley, the GOP primary season's continuing in full swing, although that could be coming to an end sooner than expected. New reporting from the Dispatch reveals that the Republican National Committee is considering a draft resolution that would automatically declare former President Trump as the party's 2024 nominee, effectively ending the primary. The resolution obtained by the Dispatch reads, resolved that the Republican National Committee hereby declares President Trump as our presumptive 2024 nominee for the office of President of the United States, and from this moment forward moves into full general election mode, welcoming supporters of all candidates as valued members of Team Trump 2024. While Trump would still be required to officially win the remaining primaries to become the official nominee, if adopted, the resolution would indicate the party apparatchik is done with Trump's competition with Nikki Haley.
Haley responded to the Dispatch's reporting through a spokeswoman, saying, "Who cares what the RNC says? We'll let millions of Republican voters across the country decide who should be our party's nominee, not a bunch of Washington insiders. If Ronna McDaniel wants to be helpful, she can organize a debate in South Carolina, unless she's also worried that Trump can't handle being on the stage for 90 minutes with Nikki Haley." To his credit, Trump seemed to agree. In a post on his Truth Social website, the former president wrote, "While I greatly appreciate the Republican National Committee wanting to make me their presumptive nominee, and while they have far more votes than necessary to do it, I feel, for the sake of party unity, that they should not go forward with this plan, but that I should do it the old-fashioned way and finish the process off at the ballot box. Thank you to the RNC for the respect and devotion you have shown me."
Meanwhile, as primary season may or may not be continuing, Haley struck back at Trump over recent comments he made surrounding January 6th and the attack on the Capitol. In those comments, Trump seemingly confused Nancy Pelosi with Haley and said Haley should have sent more security to defend the building. Take a look.
So we got out there and we did our thing and we said what we had to say. And then Donald Trump got out there and just threw a temper tantrum. He pitched a fit. He was insulting. He was doing what he does, but I know that's what he does when he's insecure. I know that's what he does when he is threatened, and he should feel threatened, without a doubt. You know, it's interesting because a few days ago, he was going on and on about me. I mean, for a while. On and on about why I didn't send in security to the Capitol on January 6th. He said it over and over and over and over again. I mean, somebody's got to tell him I wasn't there on January 6th.
Okay, I think we'll get to the Nancy Pelosi, Nikki Haley confusion, the dementia done Twitter trend in a second. I really want to talk about how she's trying to seem like an outsider. She's a darling of the neoconservative GOP, a faction of the party that's been in power for quite some time. Now you have Donald Trump, who was an outsider, take control of the party. She's like trying to cosplay as the outsider now. I find that move utterly ridiculous. So the outside is inside and everything's inside out now in the Republican Party, apparently. And I don't think running on this is going to work. Trying to be an outsider, to seem cool, to get the same voters that voted for Donald Trump initially, I don't think it's going to work for Nikki Haley. I think it's terribly corny.
Nobody believes her. I mean, I was talking to voters up in New Hampshire earlier this week, and the common refrain was that they don't trust her. They don't find her to be authentic. And the idea that she's a Washington outsider, as she is basically receiving all of the support from the GOP and Democratic mega donors, as Trump is both self-funding and using small dollars to fund his campaign, is such a ridiculous joke. I also found it interesting that her spokeswoman thinks that she should debate Trump in South Carolina. I cannot imagine a worse strategy than getting on the stage right now with Trump. She has already proven that she's not a very good debater. Vivek Ramaswamy almost made her cry on stage during the last primary debate. The idea that she would be able to handle going up against someone as brash and aggressive as Trump is just utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, Nikki Haley gave that speech after New Hampshire, started saying, oh, I can't wait to go to North South Carolina, my home state. I wanted to say North Carolina, my home state, because that is where I live now. But no, South Carolina losing for Nikki Haley could be detrimental. When Kamala Harris did poorly in California, we were like, really? You can't even win your home state? And that's what Donald Trump does to people, because he has a huge base. In a lot of these states that are considered red states, he would embarrass Ron DeSantis in Florida. He's the kind of guy that's winning the votes in their home states, even if they like Nikki Haley. But voting for someone for governor is very different from voting for someone for president. And I think Nikki Haley fundamentally has a problem of being extremely disingenuous. You can tell when she was giving that speech in New Hampshire that it was straight off of a script, that it was the most corny speech you could come up with, and probably written by interns. There was nothing personal about it. There was really no vision for the country portrayed. And so I don't think she's going to mount a significant challenge to Donald Trump in South Carolina or any of the Super Tuesday states for that matter. I don't think she's a viable candidate. Should they still have a primary? Yeah, but I don't think they need to cancel it and just say, you know what, we're endorsing Donald Trump, we're treating it like it's the general. I get that they want to use money to beat Joe Biden in 2024. But I think maybe for Nikki Haley, it's not going to go her way, and pretending to be an outsider is not going to change that.
Yeah, I think that's right. And if that performance from Nikki Haley really spoke to you for some odd reason, you can pick up her new swag to impress your friends, although no one really knows what it means. There's a new shirt which reads "Barred Permanently," and it seemed not to make a big impression on X, where many comments were either confused or arguing that Haley should drop out. And it looks like this t-shirt was an attempt to refer to the fact that Trump sent out this Truth Social post saying that anyone who makes a contribution to Nikki Birdbrain Haley will be permanently barred from the MAGA camp. But it's such a niche reference that the idea you would make a bunch of merchandising dollars on this t-shirt is pretty ridiculous. And going back to what you were talking about with the South Carolina primary, I mean, the polling average right now shows that Trump is leading by anywhere from 20 to 30 points. So even greater of a victory than he had against her in New Hampshire, where he won by about 11. And the embarrassment that comes from losing your home state cannot be overstated. So in my mind, if she still has ambitions for 2028, now is the right time to drop out. But as a Trump official told me in New Hampshire, she won't do that because she's, quote, psycho.
That makes perfect sense to me. That sounds about right.
I know. And then, of course, she's also skipping over Nevada, right? Because the Nevada GOP decided this year that they're going to hold a caucus as opposed to a primary, but state law still requires a primary to take place. So Nikki Haley is on the primary ballot, can't win delegates, and Trump is on the caucus ballot where he can win delegates. So he's basically already won almost 30 delegates. I think it's 26 in Nevada before heading to South Carolina, where he will absolutely embarrass Nikki Haley. At this point, the only reason it seems that she would stay in the race is to just keep collecting donor money, because there's no viable path to victory for her.
Right, collecting donor money for a bid in the future. Hard to do when you're barred permanently. There are so many other ways to put that. First of all, permanently, they're trying to make Donald Trump the nominee. She could make a shirt that's like, "You can't cancel me," right? Something that people would actually wear because it means something outside of just this context, and something that's kind of relevant to what's happening right now. We got nothing from barred permanently. If anything, this applies to Donald Trump because they're trying to take him off of the ballot. That's a shirt that the Trump campaign could maybe try and put out, but not Nikki Haley. It just doesn't make any sense. And I think, when we consider how the primary process happens, it's been oftentimes the case, especially in the Democratic Party, which, I saw firsthand, that candidates that are not insiders with the Democratic Party get pushed out. We've seen this happen with the Republican Party as well. Trump, I think, is in this position, not because he's a party insider, but because he's very obviously, as you pointed out, going to be the nominee.
Yeah, exactly. And people are trying to say that Trump is the establishment now because he seemingly has the backing of the RNC. We haven't really talked about that resolution, which was authored by David Bossie, who is one of the RNC committee members. He also used to work on the Trump campaign, so it's not surprising that he was the one to bring this forward. But he's one committee member out of the entire RNC. There hasn't been an indication that the RNC is even going to vote on this. Trump himself has said he doesn't want them to do it because he wants to, quote unquote, do it the old-fashioned way. And so saying the RNC is in Trump's pocket is half true, I would say. The committee members at the RNC, there's like 150, almost 200 of them, are actually quite establishment. A lot of them don't like Trump. And when you go back to 2022, after the midterms, they held on to Ronna McDaniel as the chairwoman, who was considered sort of the establishment pick. Trump, of course, installed her in 2016, as opposed to Harmeet Dillon, who was her challenger, who people actually thought ideologically was Trumpier. And so it's like a really weird situation going on at the RNC. A lot of people think Ronna McDaniel is going to be out after this cycle, if not sooner. I've heard rumors that Team Trump is kind of over her, which would be brutal for her because she agreed to use a bunch of donor money to help Trump pay his legal fees, and now will be rewarded for her supposed loyalty by being pushed out. But there's a lot of arguments for why she shouldn't be there anymore. But
lucky for Nikki Haley, the revolving door is always spinning. Maybe she can go back for working for Boeing or the military-industrial complex. More Rising after this.